Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My dear respected brothers and elders, especially the the responsible brother for this masjid, Evergreen Masjid, Ruby Masjid, especially the organizer of Saturday Talk. So I was informed by Brother Karim about this event, so he was asking whether I can share something with the community here. I believe there's also a number of community members who are joining us through the internet, through the YouTube, I believe. So inshallah, a little bit of introduction. My name is Hairul Nizam Ismail, of course from Malaysia. I was currently the Dean of School of Educational Studies, University Sains Malaysia, one of the early university in Malaysia. Is in Penang. By the way, if you're familiar with Malaysia, our university and my home is in Penang. Together with me is my dear friend Haji Muhammad Shukri. As been introduced earlier, I got my education from Indiana University, Bloomington, Indiana. I start my study in educational psychology in 1989. So I spent all my degrees, bachelor's, master's, and PhD there in Indiana University. And then upon graduation, I returned to Malaysia in 1999. I've been serving teaching in the University Sains Malaysia till today. So I've been there for about 23 years. So quite some time. I'm currently holding the administrative position to the end of my appointment. So I've been the dean since 2016 till now, but I'm ending my appointment very soon. I got 4-month leave from the work. You know, that's why I'm spending 4 months now with the Jamaat. It's a Tablighi Jamaat from Malaysia, currently in town in San Jose, 5 brothers. So we've been here for maybe about 4 or 5 days, and we'll be here another day. So that is actually a bit of introduction of me coming here to this area. Although I came to US upon my graduation from time to time for meetings, for conferences, and also for research collaborations, but this is the first time I came back, in Jamaat. So Alhamdulillah, a little bit about that. In the 80s and the 90s, there are not that many masajids, of course, all over the country. And Muslim also, there are many Muslim, but not as many as now, I believe. So in the 80s, for example, I was informed by brothers, even in California, there's only 2 established masajid those days, and many of the masajid are small musallas, especially in the campus area, right? So many, where you have campus, you have many students, Muslim students, so student tends to get together and maybe renting a house or an apartment, so that brothers and sisters can gather for prayers and also other activities, get together, especially in Ramadan and Eid. So it has been a bit challenge and struggle those days, but 20-30 years ago, living in America as a Muslim. There's always a challenge. Getting halal food also not as easy as now. I remember I have to drive 3 hours every 2 weeks to get a supply of halal meat for the whole community. So I do a small business, and not business, but actually more of a services to the community, just to get halal food on those days. So Alhamdulillah, coming back after more than 20 years, I can see many changes in the country, as far as talking about being Muslim in this country. So we've been in number of communities in the past 2 months and visiting Muslim brothers. Okay, yeah, sorry. Visiting many communities Muslim and been benefiting from them. Been talking and listening to the brothers, understanding the challenge of living here in America. So Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to give us tawfiq for us to continue practicing our deen, and not only practicing but also to propagate our deen, so that all Muslims can strengthen their iman and their deen, and as well as reaching out to the non-Muslim as well. Okay, so again, I think this is quite an interesting topic. I just came up with this topic yesterday. So I was asking Brother Kalim what are some of the topics that have been delivered by speakers in this Saturday morning talk. So I decided that to stick into my area of specialization, so that it's easy for me to talk about it. I have been busy with administrative work, so I have not been teaching that much. Starting January, I'll go back to alhamdulillah, my old passion of teaching. So this is a good jump start in that sense of start looking into my notes and things that I've been teaching. So anyway, this is a topic that triggered about maybe 10 years ago. I was I've been talking to our doctor, professor just now, that I've been in medicine for a few months doing some research over there. And one day I went to this bookstore, and I came across this one book. The top left corner book, Boys and Girls Learn Differently, by an author named Michael Gurian. So I was so glued into the book. So I finished all the book in the bookstore itself. So much interest, and I was amazed by the work done by Michael Gurian. By the way, Michael Gurian is a psychologist here in America. I believe he is in Portland, Oregon. Anyway, I attended the workshop in Denver, Colorado. A few years after that, alhamdulillah, and benefiting from the talk. So it's not a very complicated topic, but it's something that happening in front of our eyes. The fact that actually our children, boys and girls, are actually different. Anatomically, yeah. So by nature, they are different, of course, in all senses. But the main is the differences in their brain. We have brothers who are actually neurologists, so he can help me. I'm not a neurologist by any means. I'm a professor in education. So it fit very well of how understanding and research in brain, by understanding the nature of the brain, can actually have a big implication in education on how we approach our children learning. Yeah, I understand that in America you are also. Can I move so that? Yeah, is it okay? I will be out of the picture, I guess.
No, that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. So being a teacher in university, you try to be a little bit active so that student didn't fall asleep. So okay. I'm trying to remember where we are. So yes, let me try to. Boys and girls are different. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, yes. This is I really recommend for you. Oh yeah, no. I want to talk about homeschooling here in America. I mean, in many countries it doesn't. Been so common, but in US it's a common for children to be homeschooled. But anyway, going back to the book, I really recommend parents, teachers, especially if you are interested in this topic, to read books. And I also show or listed some of other books that been written by a group of people in this Institute of Learning. Yeah, okay. So this is another book I've been using in my university. I want to show this because this is a website that you might be interested in going to get more reading of this title, Boys and Girls Learn Differently. It's an institute called Korean Institute, so from Michael Gurian's name. And I believe, I stand for correction, I believe it is in Portland, Oregon. So yes, they did a lot of research, and not only research but workshop training teachers all over the country on this issue, so that we can actually help assist the boys, and at the same time, of course, not stereotyping them, and also definitely developing girls or females student learning. So, so as I said, these are some of the books that I had read, and so it's sometimes used in my classroom back in Malaysia. But these topics actually being taught in a master's level course in Malaysia. It's called cognitive neuroscience program, where people are interested in integrating knowledge in brains in brain science, neuroscience into education. Okay, so again, as I said, this is very helpful books helping especially teachers and parents. Yeah, that's why I want to get into homeschooling. So I understand or been informed and learn very interestingly many of students, particularly Muslim in Muslim communities, children are being homeschooled. So this is probably a good reference for parents who are actually homeschooling their children. Again, I'm trying my best, as I promised Mr. Barakali, to make this very general and not too academic, since we have different kind of audience today. I just want to click this link. I hope it works. Again, oops. Somehow it doesn't. But anyway, what maybe it doesn't click. What I'm showing now in my screen are the list of studies. So maybe because I clicked the different link. So anyway, what I'm trying to say, in case we cannot look at the reference list, again, you can refer to many. There are, my talk today is actually based on number of studies and publication done people in the area. Yeah, so I will. Okay, I think the link is here. For those here and maybe at home. So maybe you can. Maybe I do it later. Yeah, I just remind me to change the color so that you can see the link here. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So yes. So while waiting, part of the reason why I interested in this topic is because I have my own child. I have two boys and 3 girls, and even by experience, I'm pretty sure all of us experience that there are differences, right? in our children, in terms of their learning, um, tendencies, in terms of their interest, and in terms of their pace, how they actually learn either in school or at home. So that's why I was intrigued with the book that is actually speak a lot about my own children, differences between the boys and the girls. So I'm going to focus today. I was asked to limit my talk about half an hour. I think we have done more than 5 minutes now. So of course there are many angles. There are many you can look at this from different angles, as I say. However, for the purpose of our time, I'm going to focus only how actually the nature of the brain. So let's move on very quickly. Again, this is my children. I have 5, 2 boys and 3 girls, and they are very much being an inspiration for me in understanding their own differences in education. Everybody is educational psychology, yeah. So in educational psychology, you learn about one, human nature, how they develop. As far as teaching is concerned, how your students actually develop, either naturally or something that the abnormal situation that they face. And of course, also you learn about their learning itself. How the learning is being optimized in the classroom or outside the classroom. Okay, so you cannot talk about the brain without talking a little bit about the gene. Again, alhamdulillah, we understand as a Muslim, we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, definitely. So, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also doing it through, some sunnatullah. So we understand in creating boys and girls, talking about differences between the gender. So it's very much affected by two I say the chromosome, yeah, from the, let's say, from the father and the mother. So father will provide gene X and Y, and then the mother double X. So depending on the combination of the two, so you get either boys or girls. So double X from mother, Y from the father. So a little bit about gene, as I said, in terms of differences, because we're talking about later on the differences between boys and girls. So you have talked about chromosome. You have 2 types of chromosome, X and Y. You get double X from the mom, X or Y from the dad. So if it happened that the Y meet the X chromosome, then you got boys, yeah. And if you got double X, one from the mother and one from the father, then you get XX, girls, sorry, XX girls. In terms of development of human beings, of course, it's very much influenced by nature versus nurture. Nature is, the genetics part of it, and also, of course, nurture, our environment, our socialization, very much also influence of our development. So, as we know, and as I learned also here in America, this is very much important that we not control, but actually be aware of the environment, because the environment that our children growing up here in America is a challenge, especially if you really want to practice Islam in this country. So nature, meaning that the environment is very much, as I said, influence your development. So the Y chromosome, according to the people in the biology areas, said that it triggers production of testosterone, which is male sex hormone, and through that, this is very simplified kind of path here, and the chromosome also will influence not only the body of human beings, and in our context children, our children, but also their brain as well. All right. So very quickly, what difference does difference make? So we'll be talking a little bit just now about the difference of male and female. So a little bit of facts on their development. For male, there's higher incidence of parental and birth complication. By the way, I'm going to leave this slide. If anybody with the organizer, if you are interested, in case you cannot see very well at home, for example, you can get this slide. I have no problem sharing this with others. So very quickly, male higher incidence of prenatal and birth complication, 25% higher mortality rate, tend to be more irritable and others. Yeah. So what I'm trying to, the point is, what I'm going to stress here is that naturally male have more challenge in development. Partly because by default all babies are female. Then based on the amount of testosterone produced, it'll become male. What I'm trying to say is that male individual or male human actually gone through more complicated process. So there's a more chances for complication in growing up. So the point I want to stress here, brothers and maybe sisters at home, is that if you get a healthy boys in your family, it is really a great blessing and ni'mah from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, because so many boys have problems growing up in terms of their genetics, that many of, in fact, if you look into special education area out there are many boys than girls. Partly because they, by nature they have to go through more process in being a human being. So there, along the way there are many chances of that. So again, what I'm saying is that if we have a healthy body, and all of us, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give ni'mah, we also have to make thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of that, because we can easily have issues growing up. For example, let's talk about the brain. The brain, as you know, has many cells in the brain, in our brain. It is said that there's many differences in opinion. Some say it's 10 million cells in the brain, but there are also scholars or experts who say up to billions of cells in our brain. So what I'm going to want to explain or maybe share with you is that there are a number of processes that each cell is going through. There are three main. One is actually the growth itself of the cell. Second, what they call migration of the cell, and then the proliferation, meaning that it's complete the growth. It's very interesting for me to learn this. So cell, brain cell, they actually, especially the second phase of their development is what they call migration. So cell actually, they move around in our brain so much, with all the numbers of cell, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made such migration, and they will reach at their final destination. So can you imagine let's say 1 million, even 1 million, and they are saying that there are more than 1 million cells in the brain. So the cell actually move around, and they will only stop when they reach at their final destination. Allahu A'lam. This is what scientists were saying, and our brothers can probably confirm this. So what I'm saying is that there are a lot of chances for the cell to get lost. Maybe the GPS. No, I'm just doing early easy terms so that you can understand how complex this journey is of the cell. So because of that movement, they can easily didn't reach at their destination. Yeah. So because of that, we say if we have a healthy brain, if we brain works in education, we call optimal level, then we have again back to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Maybe Western people will not say this, but for us Muslim, Alhamdulillah, we say that if we develop to be a normal human beings and be able to think, normally, this is also rahmah from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, because we can easily have this kind of problem. So I'm not going to go this too much, just to show the possibility of differences between male and female, partly because of the different of their genetics there. So very quickly, again, I'm trying to be very try to not to be too technical in this. So unfortunately, you cannot see very clearly. This is actually the view of our brain, which is very much important when you want to look into differences between male and female. One area that Michael Gurian especially has been stressing is a part of a brain, the inner brain, called corpus callosum. Corpus callosum is the middle part of the brain, which actually differentiate between left hemisphere of the brain and right side of the hemisphere. So what being stressed is that if we, from the studies, they show that corpus callosum is thicker in female, especially female children. Yeah, female children by nature has a thicker corpus callosum as compared to boys. What implication does that make? Is that when you have thicker corpus callosum, an individual be able to organize or to process the information more efficiently between left and right. And what also other implication is that a person with thicker corpus callosum be able to do multitasking. Okay, multitasking. So girls in that sense is better than boys in terms of doing multiple things at one time. Boys good at one time at one thing, but they cannot do too much. I can see in my son also. They are, when they concentrate on certain things they like, they really on task. But it's very difficult for them to do multiple things at one time. But girls, for that reason, be able to do more than one things better than our children. I think it's also maybe even in adults. Yeah. So you can see our wives can do multiple things. While cooking, they can also do other things. But we male in general, not so good. So partly the hypothesis is that because of the corpus callosum. These are things that we as a parents and as teacher maybe should understand this nature also. Okay, very quickly. Somehow it's brother, maybe another help. So how about time now? How much time I have?
We can, if we can wrap the talk in about.
Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, so yeah, yes, it's not moving. You have to go back and forth.
Oh, you have some.
Okay, all right. So good. I think this slide probably a good time to shorten my talk. These are the MRIs produced, done by National Institute of Mental Health here in America, quite number of years ago. That looking at this is to prove the differences between girls and boys brain. The blue shows where the two differ most. So I can say that the difference is very apparent, very common in our children in elementary school. But the differences disappear. They are become more similar as they get older. So don't worry about this. So normally our son catching up in terms of that. Their brain development, they have become more equal to the female. But what scholars were saying is that even though male, our son actually catching up in terms of their brain, but sometimes the I don't call it damage, but the effects has occurred in the beginning, so because of the lack of understanding of these differences. For example, in Malaysia, we have a national exam at the age of 12. So all 12-year-old school children have to take this national examination. And the exam is basically, if they, of course, all will proceed to the secondary school. But if they intend to get into we call it boarding school, meaning that is a very dedicated, a very good school. They have to get a good grade on the national exam. So again, there's so many different opinions, right, of that exam. So what I'm saying is that, and I've been telling the Ministry of Education about this. So I told them that it's unfair to the boys, because if you make the boys and the girls take the exam at the same year, same time, if you look into nature, boys are not ready yet, because even in the development, boys normally a year or to 2 years behind the female, in terms of development. So but the exam, when we make the exam available for everybody, boys and girls at the same time, we are assuming they are the same. But actually, in reality, they are not. Boys are a little bit behind. So when we force them to take the exam at age of 12, girls actually on a better advantage from the boys. And it's apparent that, yes, that is what happened. But you see that in Malaysia, particularly, the girls are performing better than the boys. Partly my hypothesis is that because, as I said, naturally their development is not the same. So in other words, boys supposed, if you want to be fair to the boys supposed to take the exam, this session exam, a year later, when their brain is more mature, and their development is at least at par as the girl. So I did my best. I did mention or write this to the ministry. So far nothing happened yet, unfortunately. But again, the policy maker of the nation should also it should be evidence-based policy. So I'm hoping, inshallah, in the future, the policy maker, especially in Malaysia, for example, they will be able to listen a little bit on the research being done on the ground level. So yes, so similarities increase over time. But this is what the MRI was published to show the issue on these differences. Okay, so again, we don't have time to go in details on what differences are there in our children learning. But again, I will leave this slide to the organizer. So these are some of the area of brain, where differences was found between our daughters and our son, in terms of in the amygdala, which is more on emotion kind of thing, corpus callosum, as I said earlier, are the middle part that connect the two hemispheres. So denser connection in females, so increased crosstalk between hemisphere. Okay, I'm going to stop partly because of the time on one last thing. I'll be happy if you can bring this home on the issue of race state differences between male and female. And I have a video also. I'm not sure if that will work, but in short, these are the MRI study in UPenn.
Sorry, I think we feel that this content is really good. We don't want to force you to
Oh, okay.
fast. So,
Okay.
you can pace it accordingly.
Okay, all right. But let me continue with this slide. This slide is done by a professor named Gur in UPenn, University of Pennsylvania, very good school in Philadelphia. It's a study that study the differences between male and female brain during the rest state. Let me repeat: rest state. Rest state meaning while we are not very active. For example, all of you now at a rest state, and what happened in our brain. So from the PET scan, I believe this is a PET scan technology, been done for many years ago. Let me see if I can. I try to play the video. Yeah, then I will maybe. Okay, let me try my best. I know I'm going to mess up the thing, but I hope I can.
And then we'll place
The University of Pennsylvania.
Is the other way? I'm trying to play the video very quickly.
What is this on the website?
It's not website. It's already here.
And then we'll place
The University of Pennsylvania's neuroimaging unit has the most advanced brain scan technology. Tracking blood flow in the brain, they're exploring the very geography of the mental process.
Very much related to our boys and girls.
The greater blue area,
whether in the classroom or at home. If there's one thing that you bring back from this talk today, I think this is the most important thing, I believe. So let's try while there's a couple brothers are trying. Let me try to put it in a very easy way to understand. In rest state, meaning that there's not much activities going on. For example, all of you here are listening to me, so you just focusing and not doing many things. So according to the study, it showed that at rest state, male brain will shut down after a certain time. Just not doing anything, listening to somebody talking. For example, in the classroom, for example, when students are forced to just listen to the teacher, for extended period of time, what happens is that for male, according to the research, the male brain will being inactive, and in other words, they become shut down. So the student probably looking at the teacher, but they, their mind is somewhere else. They're not active. However, for the female, even at rest state, their brain still active. So what Professor Gur was showing that there's a blue and red kind of part of the brain, showing that even at rest state, the female brain is still red, meaning they are still active, they are processing something. So what does that have on implication on education is that, all over the world, I think, because I'm in school education, we teach teachers, right? We teach teachers. So I see still, we are focusing on one-way interaction. If you go to school, I believe anywhere in the world, probably a little bit better in the developed countries because of their understanding of this issue. So back home, for example, in many of our countries, students are made to sit, like this. They sit and just listening
and then we'll place
the University of Pennsylvania.
to the teacher. So what I'm trying to stress here, again, I hope I do a good job at that. I can make you see that you cannot let the boys.
I think we have the
Rest.
video now.
Oh, okay. Yes, can we go in?
And then we'll place
The University of Pennsylvania's neuroimaging unit has the most advanced brain scan technology.
All right. Everything fine?
Tracking blood flow in the brain, they're exploring the very geography of the mental process. The gray to blue areas show low blood flow, areas of low brain activity. Yellow and red show researchers where the blood is flowing, where the mental action is. A woman's brain, it seems, is hardly ever off duty.
So the upper row are the men, the lower row are the women, and you just compare the baseline difference. The resting brains of women look as hot as the activated brain of men. You can see that the amount of activity in resting women is about as high as the amount of activity in thinking in men who are working on problems. Straightforwardly, it would mean that the rate of neural firing is higher and the rate of activity is greater. So presumably there is more going on in a resting female brain than in a resting male brain.
All right. I think it speaks for itself. It's a short video. So again, as I said, female brain still active even during rest stage. So I've been invited to a number of schools in Malaysia and talk about this. So I told the teachers is that you have to be fair, to boys and girls. Otherwise our system become female friendlier. Our education are much female friendly in the sense it fit to the brain of the female. Boys cannot stay that long doing nothing. They have to do something. So one way is to maybe stop and then do certain kind of activities. Either in the classroom or at home. If you homeschool your children, then you have to understand that. To make the boys sit and just read, and not moving, actually is to me is unfair to the boys because of the nature of their brain. So they need to do something in order to focus. They lose concentration. So again, this is the message I give to the teachers, the school who invited me. So saying that boys have so much potential also. This is under the premise is that in Malaysia, again, maybe I should have tell you that girls are performing better, in school and also in exam, national exam especially. So the hypothesis we're saying is that the system in Malaysia and maybe in other countries as well, as I said, the term used is female friendly, because we don't take into consideration the nature of brain of male and female in our teaching. So if we want to be fair and we want to actually getting the best out of our male student more, again, of course there are there's many exceptions out there, but in general, and especially I'm referring to Malaysia, we have in universities, for example, 65% are female, only about 30% are male, and especially the male are in a certain area like engineering and stuff, and they're also in a technical area. But in general, they are not doing as good as female, and we're trying to do more research, of course, to see whether it's actually due to our teaching method. The way we actually teaching our children in the classroom, and this evidence actually make me strongly believe that yes, you have to do some modification in terms of how you approach your instruction and your teaching, either in the school or at home, understanding that boys actually didn't learn exactly like girls, so otherwise I found that in the school, teachers tend to reprimand boys for moving, They need to move actually. They cannot sit still for a long time, because as we see again, I'm stressing it again and again, the nature of their brain are not the same. So of course it's a bit simplified, but it's something that we can do further in terms of understanding this brain. But again, as I said, two things that I want you to bring back today from this short talk. One, to have the awareness of the differences between male and female brain, which actually impacted their learning. That's what number one. Okay, I get to you. And number two is that the nature of their brain will not allow. Again, I'll probably do a bit too much on that, but it influences how they actually learn in school due to the nature of their brain. Okay, so okay, let me address that question.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do students tend to perform better in a mixed gender classroom environment or separate gender classroom?
Thank you for the question. I think I show. I don't want to mess up. Yes. It works both ways. I mean, what I'm saying is that either it's mixed or different, separate. Yeah. But let me say that like this. It is been a trend, because I have good connection with Gurian Institute. So it been mentioned that even in America there are trend now to have separate school. You know, in Malaysia, of course, we already have that available. So parents can choose either to send their children to mixed school or to separate boys school and girls school. I think in many of Muslim countries as well, right? I think in the Arab country, I believe they separate boys and girls, partly because of our religion, not too much on the brain.
In India, we have that option.
Oh, okay. So yes, if I can address your question, having separate class, separate school or separate class in that matter will probably put an advantage to the teacher, because they can focus on the gender. Yeah. But as I said, it doesn't matter. We are not here to discriminate anybody. So a matter of remember, I showed some books in both elementary and secondary school. That books is actually for mixed school, so you can do it. But of course, you have to first of all have the awareness of the differences, and it's okay if you teach in certain ways that works for both. But of course, with the understanding, you will stress more on certain area. What I'm trying to say is that even from there's a big international study called PISA, PISA. They actually measure the differences between boys and girls in terms of science, mathematics, and reading. So in reading, definitely girls are performing better in that PISA international exam, and girls are partly I have a chance to look into, because of partly of their brain, they process language much earlier than boys. So again, back to the exam, the PISA exam, girls are doing better than boys. And then in terms of math and science, math especially, boys are slightly better, although girls are closing the gap now. All over the world. I think about 50 countries were participating in that test, including Malaysia. That's why I kind of familiar with it. In terms of science, there's no difference now. So back to your question, yes, if you can separate, it'll be easier for the teacher to teach. If you take this thing into consideration, however, it's not. How can I say? You can still do it even for mixed school. Yeah, the teachers can still address this issue if they understand the differences. Okay, correct.
In Malaysia,
Yes.
is homosexuality considered to be something that ought to be reformed, or something which is a natural or genetic predisposition like it is there? I'm talking about the Malaysian mindset.
Yes, yes.
Government stand, you mean the government's stand or?
Well, as an
Malaysian?
educationist,
Yes.
what is your view on it?
Okay. First of all, is something that we rejected totally from the government standpoint. For the in terms of education per se, of course, normally we.
When you say it's rejected, is there a tendency to reform that behavior?
It's a good question. There's no. Okay, let me think about it. By reform, you mean try to bring back
There used to be this movement here in the West also, that it is a behavior that can be quote unquote reformed.
Right.
Now the pendulum is swung the other way, where it is that this is really a natural predisposition, and there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't address that. We basically say is something that is not acceptable. First of all, yeah. But to be honest, in terms of handling that, we still have a long way to go in terms of if I can use your word reforming this person. So normally for this group, we have some there's some effort to try to talk to them. I understand there's some activists, social activists in Malaysia who actually try to take some action of how to bring this group back to the mainstream, in terms of talking, and also I think the approach is more on religious base, so also how try to give nasiha kind of thing. So yes, brother.
So you have picture of brain, how you
Okay.
how you function, how you different between male and female.
Okay.
And brain you have neurotransmitter.
Right.
There's 7 kind of neurotransmitter.
Right.
Each action, for instance, brush your teeth might initiate feelings of neurotransmitter.
Yes.
And you keep doing the same thing, the same pattern will happen more often.
Okay.
They will acting more quickly. They will act quickly and more smooth.
Yes.
That's called habituation. The neurotransmitter does have habituation process. Once you do it so many times, then the next time occurs, you will do it quickly.
Okay.
So
Become more effective, yeah, in terms of the
male
fighting.
and female in our culture or in different culture, they have demand character.
You said demand?
Demand character.
Okay.
They demand to do certain behavior. Therefore, their transmitter will react differently. Therefore, there is some difference, right? So, you mentioned earlier that for a young kid at a certain age, there is a difference between male and female.
Yes.
I think that difference is not dominant. It's not going to dominate their learning process.
Yes.
It's not dominant. What is dominant is how parents educate their kids when they're young, when they're very young. How they teach them how to learn, how to focus, how to stay calm, how not to be overreactive. That would decide how they learn when they go to school, how they take the test. It's not their gene, it's not their nature, how they're inborn.
Yeah.
The inborn can be override by parents giving a better environment.
I agree because I said development is both nature and nurture. So the brain we're talking about is the teacher part. The nature definitely something that impacted the brain as well. And you mentioned about neurotransmitter, you know, when you the connection between the cells, right? The cell didn't. So let me try to say this before so even in the cell, now we have to go a little bit technical. There are a component called myelin sheath. That is component who actually what's the word that become conductor of the cell, yeah. And studies show that the thicker the myelin sheath in the cell, the firing of neurotransmitter is more efficient. So studies show that this myelin sheath can be thicker due to number of activities or a factor. One is from the you know, those children who breast milk, they take milk from the mother. You know, that milk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes to such an extent that it helps making the myelin sheath thicker. Another thing, studies been done with rats, for example, show that if you keep the rat very active in the cage, you know, they are moving the wheels kind of thing, and it tends when they look at the brain, it thicker into myelin sheath. So what I'm saying is that what I'm trying to say is that yes, environment also important, and the most our children is exposed to different activities. They are active in their learning. It also can have impact on their cell. Thus, the neurotransmitter is better much you know, connected. Yes.
Yeah, but the thing I try to say is another study is that after fact, after people demonstrate certain behavior,
Yes.
they study, they say, oh, this is the reason why they have this kind of thing. It's after fact because of this. And another thing I want to say about homosexuality, well, homosexuality, well, that's an individual difference. People have difference. But once you put an individual difference, politicalized.
Yeah.
Politicalized.
Okay.
Right? Then if you get mass of people and politicalize their individual activity, then you have homosexual, lesbian, you have all kind of things that unacceptable in a moral sense. So that's what I think about this.
So,
Yes.
some time.
Yeah. Brother Sid, go ahead and help yourself. Sorry, okay.
Yeah, I have a question, but please go ahead.
Okay.
You said the girls are usually faster in picking up the education compared to the boys. At what age level do you think that gap closes, and then boys and girls are both actually learning at the same pace and at the same level?
Okay, of course, learning is very difficult to say. Learning happen at the same pace because there are many factors at play in the equation. But as one of the slides I showed just now, the differences is very clear in elementary level. Yeah, as children get older, especially in college, you can see the differences very much disappear in terms of the brain structure. Yeah, in general brain. So yes, if you ask me whether that is good demarcation in terms of the period, you know, it's really different in the early part of the life. Right?
And also, does the learning of a child depend on their nurturing at home, or the genetics of the parents, or is it always like you mentioned, the girls are good at picking up reading faster, and the boys are better
Yes.
at picking up math? Is that always true, or is it actually
No, it's always it's in general. There's always exception, of course. You know, there are of course boys are more, genius, for example. You know, or not very normal. They're picking up things earlier than the rest of the boys. So yeah, there's no question. And also, you know, also always nature versus nature. So both are very important. You know, if you talk to scholars, they also say both nature and nature play a big role in our development.
Can there be a training done to catch up on the level to be monetized from boys to monetize?
yes, yes.
Train your brain.
Huh?
You train your brain to do that because naturally it doesn't allow
You can train. You can help at least moving faster. But of course, there's some limit, some because of the, as you say, the nature. So you can do something about it. It's not hopeless situation. Yes, there are many, I think, programs.
So this is something probably it should be in the school, what do you say, academic stuff, where they can have some programs to make people.
Yeah, yes. I believe there are many schools, even here in America, that when I attended the workshop was in Denver many years ago. There are representatives for many school districts. They actually send their representative.
So they have a special program only.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. If you ask me, I do not know what kind of program, but yes, from the discussion I heard, there are a number of programs that can be done. That has been.
Can you stand there so that?
Oh, okay, okay.
The other hands up.
Yes, great. Right. So to answer the brother question just now, it's not an hopeless situation. Yeah, Prof.
The morphological differences between the boys and the girls, the males and the females, first is throughout the life.
Yes.
Because of that, when the males age, does the differences become more pronounced comparing to the females?
Okay.
So if there is onset of normal aging process, when the ability to concentrate on the task gets worse with males comparing to the females.
Okay.
There is a study to say that the males do worse than the females.
I think that statement probably a bit misleading in terms of strong conclusion. Yeah, I mean, but by no means I'm saying that male. If I understand your question or your comment, by no means I'm trying to come to a conclusion that female is better, than male. I'm just saying that due to the way we teach in school, especially at the earlier period, and not taking into consideration the differences of them. So it's adding up, So psychologically, the male, because they are facing problems, difficulties in class, whether concentrating or understanding the teaching, and teachers at the same time didn't aware of the difficulties, and different kind of diagnostic being given. So, for example, I'm just giving example. It's a big issue before, and now we have taken. This is an issue of dyslexic, dyslexic children, also partly because of the brain problem. So in the past, in Malaysia especially, we are not aware of this issue. So teachers are not being trained to diagnose students. Straight away they make because of dyslexic, basically the brain process the information differently. So they look the words different, and they cannot process the words, the information normally. So teachers tend to make a quick conclusion, judgment, that these students are actually have behavioral problem, without having the knowledge of that actually students are having some some problems, non-behavioral problem, meaning that they have, because 5% of the population have dyslexia. So what I'm saying is that this kind of knowledge is very important, awareness, because otherwise teachers tend to judge their children very quickly, saying that they are not interested, they have some problem, behavior issues, something like that. So this is probably a good example of understanding and aware of the existence of such problem. You make the teacher approach their teaching, and when they handling their children, they can diagnose better and thus giving a better approach to the teaching. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
Okay. There's many. Okay. Good.
Has modern science done anything to make some father produce only male child and some father to produce female?
Wow. Okay. Can anybody here help me? Of course, I'm not expert in that. So the question is whether the modern science, the modern technology can assist in whether you can get boys or girls. Is that roughly what you're saying?
I believe there is gender selection, gender
Okay.
preferences, all those options are available now.
Okay. So meaning that there's some medication
I don't know how
that
it works.
at least the mother can take. Although
I'm talking about father.
father.
Because father decides the gender of the baby.
Okay. Yes, the X and Y. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a
Okay.
question. If I can.
Yes.
So,
Go ahead.
so first of all, welcome to our masjid,
Okay.
and really thank you for spending time with us today. I was actually in Malaysia for a year, from 1994 to 1995. I used to be there, so huge appreciation of the country that you are from. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, the most gentle people, loving people, simple country, but full of love and affection and Islam. So great memories from Malaysia. I'm sure a lot of people here have.
Where were you? There?
I used to work in Petaling Jia. I used to
Okay.
live in
Kuala
Kuala
Lumpur.
Lumpur, kind of
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the border.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
But so I've not been to Penang, but I've heard some beautiful things about Penang. I know it's a very beautiful place. So I think the first sort of just a comment I have, if I can, is the fact that I've always heard about the fact that boys and girls are different, but other than physiologically, I was never aware that there are actual brain differences. Never I have heard as in made aware of that, right? So that itself is a big deal for me too. That is a big thing. So that is the first thing. But I guess secondly, so I have a boy and a girl. Grown up, my girl is close to 21, 22. And I've never treated them separately, right? Definitely, right? So basic question is for a lot of us as younger parents or older parents, should we be looking at, and I'm not even talking about education, but even at home, should we be looking at girls and boys differently and saying that I discipline my girl differently than my boys, or treat them differently, or give them different things to do? And because other than obviously the psychological differences and all that, we have treated them the same way pretty much. And that another question, I guess, also is that in the US at least, there's this huge thing about, hey, we are the same, okay? Don't tell me that girls and boys are different. We all do the same things, we all go to work, we all cook, we all do everything the same. So don't please talk about it, because that becomes discrimination. But now what you're saying, and my wife and daughter will be very happy to know that the girl's brain is developing faster, and multitasking, all those I think very important point. But the focus on society about treating boys and girls the same way outside the home, in their careers and all that, and in the home while raising up, should they be treated separately and different expectations from them?
Yes. Thank you for the question. My straight answer, yes. That's what happened to me. After I learned this, get introduced to this concept, I tend to look at my boss differently now. So that is one first thing I want to say. What I did personally, yes. I tend to to look at them differently. I'm talking about my boys, and now I tend to be more rationalized if they are facing problems. For example, my boys speak much later than my girls. The girls they can speak very early. Boys tend to speak early. I have met number of parents also come to see, even here. It's one brother from Vietnam. He also expressed the concern of the boys not picking up things quicker at later stage. Then yes, I think that is have been established in terms of development. The girls is, as I said, also is 1.5 years ahead of boys. Although boys catching up, they are late bloomers in that sense. They catch up in high school and of course in college. So there's no issues when talk about high school and college. They are equally similar in terms of that. But yes, of course, the nature is a different issue of how the environment. So yes, back to your question. I think it's a good idea to look at it at different way. Similar to this, there's another concept or theory in education called multiple intelligence. Multiple intelligence by Howard Gardner, for example. So when this concept was introduced, it gives the different view for the teachers. I'm giving something maybe you can relate to your question. So when the understanding is that people good at different areas. You cannot look at students similar. They are probably more intelligent in certain intelligences and compared to others. So meaning that you cannot make a judgment that all the students are the same, and you measure them in the same way. For example, in our system, it's all pencil and paper kind of exam. But children they might not have that intelligence in terms of we call it verbal linguistic kind of intelligences. They're good at other things, interpersonal kind of thing, in terms of creativity, which normal exam will not measure that, So I have also done very quickly activities with many of my students, listing because all my students are teachers, So I asked them what you like about boys and what you like about girls, So we come up with a long list. And when I asked them, okay, look at the list of what good for boys and girls, which one is being measured in the school, So apparently there are many qualities among the boys. For example, leadership. They're good at leadership. They're good at, as I was learning also, boys are, they are more humor in that sense, So girls are very good at tasks, writing. All these things are actually measured in the exam. Boys, their characteristic was not being appreciated in that sense. It's not being measured in the school. That kind of thing. So again, back to your question on your own children. Yes, I mean what Boolean Institute is trying to do is it's not at all discriminating against girls, but they feel that boys, not only in this country but all over the world, they are behind a bit, and they need more encouragement. They need more input, so that at least they can do better. Partly because the system, partly because the environment, something like that. So it's very much program is gearing toward how helping the boys, because boys are really, if you don't do anything with them, so they may be very far left behind, kind of thing. Okay, right. The last question.
Yeah, we'll take the last question.
Okay. So what's the scope of this study? What's the age you studied this? Is it only for teenagers? Is it for older women and men as well?
No. It's, because I'm in School of Education, so my subject normally is students, So either elementary school and high school.
Can we say it's for just for teenagers?
Yeah. From the
And till when does this difference continue? Till what age? Is it?
Again, I think I have the same question just now. Yeah, so it disappeared as they get into adolescent. You're talking about in the
Then it becomes the same.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, again, thank you very much for the opportunity. This is also ongoing interest I have. Still engaged in research in this, but I want to stop by saying that I'm in process of talking to Michael Gurian to bring this to Malaysia. So we are having a big conference in Malaysia, maybe 2-3 years down the road, to actually at least bring awareness among the parents and teachers about this. I think that is the starting point for us to address the issues. So of course I get many questions, in terms of human rights, things like that. So when I present, but again, this is have nothing at all to discriminate against anybody, especially the girls. But as Gurian was saying, boys in dire need of help, in their life, not only education but how they going through their life. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. I hope at least something.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you very much.